Clouds hang low over the Dawson mansion, a large, elegant home that once overflowed with laughter and love. Inside, a portrait of Robert Dawson stands surrounded by white lilies. He had been a man of principle, a self-made builder, a husband, a father. Now, all that remained of him was his name and his home. Beside his casket sat Martha Dawson, his wife of 65 years. Her hands trembled slightly as she pressed the tissue to her lips. She didn't cry loudly. She had already cried too much. Her sons, David, Michael, and Ethan, stood in quiet formality with their wives. Their faces showed sadness, but beneath that, a faint unease. The kind that comes when grief mixes with the question of what comes next. When the pastor's words faded and the guests began to leave, Martha whispered softly to herself, "You always said this house would never feel empty, Robert. I think you were wrong." That night, the house was too quiet. The clock ticked in the hallway, the rain tapped against the glass. David, the eldest, sat in his father's old chair, straight-backed, serious. Michael and Ethan sat nearby, sorting through documents, old keys, and bank statements. Their wives hovered in the background, whispering in low tones. David said, "We should go over the estate tomorrow. Dad left no formal will. We'll have to divide everything equally." Michael frowned. "Equally? I managed the farm for 5 years. I think that gives me some say." Ethan shot back. "You're turning this into a math problem. Dad's gone, Mike." Michael snapped. "Someone has to be practical." Their voices rose. Their wives added their opinions. The talk of grief turned into talk of shares. And then a frail, quiet voice cut through the noise. "Tell me," Martha said from the corner, her tone soft but steady. "When you divide everything, who will take me?" The room froze. The men stared at the floor. The wives looked away. Martha smiled faintly, her eyes glistening. "The quietness," she said, "has all the answers I need." Later that evening, as dinner went cold, Martha tried one last time. She sat with her sons in the dining room, the chandelier glowing faintly overhead. "My sons, I don't want the money. I don't want the land. I just want to live here, in the house your father built with his hands. This is all I know." Ethan, the youngest, spoke first. "Mom, this mansion is too big for you. You'll feel lonely. Let us find you a smaller place, somewhere easier, more comfortable." Martha looked at him long and hard. "And what will make me more comfortable, Ethan? A smaller roof or a bigger heart?" He had no answer. The silence returned, thick, heavy, suffocating. Finally, she said quietly, "If that's the case, then you don't need to worry. I can find the place myself." That night, Martha couldn't sleep. She walked through the hallways, touching the walls her husband had painted, the table where their boys once fought over toys, the photo frames that captured years of laughter. She stopped by Robert's study. His hat still hung on the wall, his old reading glasses resting on his Bible. She whispered softly, "You built them a future, Robert, but they forgot who built them." Her eyes welled with tears. In that quiet house, she realized she had become a guest in her own home. Just before dawn, Martha packed a small leather bag. Inside, 2 dresses, her wedding photograph, and a letter. She placed the letter neatly on the dining room table. Her handwriting was old but steady. "My dear sons, you were right. This house is too big for me, but even smaller is the space you've kept for me in your hearts. Don't look for me. I've gone somewhere peaceful, where love still remembers how to breathe." She walked through the front door quietly. Outside, a taxi idled. The driver, a young man, opened the door. "Where to, ma'am?" She looked up at the mansion one last time. Its tall windows, now just empty eyes. Maple Grove Nursing Home, in the suburbs. As the car pulled away, the house stood tall but hollow. Just bricks now, no heartbeat left inside. In morning, David went downstairs first. He noticed the note. His hands shook as he read it. "She's gone," he whispered. Within minutes, all three brothers were searching, calling neighbors, checking the church, asking around town. By evening, someone finally told them, "She's at Maple Grove. Checked herself in this morning." They drove there in silence, guilt heavier than the rain on the windshield. At Maple Grove, the building was old but warm. Inside, soft music played, and laughter drifted down the halls. They found her sitting by the window, sunlight warming her face as she sipped tea. "Mom," Ethan said, tears rising, "why didn't you tell us?" She turned, calm and gentle. "Because you wouldn't have understood, my sons. I didn't leave to punish you. I left to find peace. Peace doesn't live in a house where love has died." Michael said quietly, "We were wrong, Mom." She smiled faintly. "No, my son. You were just too busy counting things that never mattered." Weeks passed. The brothers visited her often. They brought groceries, books, flowers. Sometimes they just sat with her, listening to her stories, stories they hadn't heard in years. She seemed lighter, freer. One afternoon, David asked, "Mom, would you ever come back home?" She looked out the window and said softly, "Houses don't become homes with walls and paint. They become homes when people inside still know how to love." Winter came quietly that year. The first snow covered Maple Grove in white. One morning, the nurse found Martha still in her bed, eyes closed, a soft smile on her face, her hands clutching the photograph of her husband. When her sons arrived, the nurse handed them her belongings, a small bag, a sweater, and one folded letter. "To my boys. When you miss me, don't come to the mansion. Go where someone needs your love. That's where you'll find me." They brought her back to the Dawson mansion, the house that once echoed with her voice. This time, there were no arguments, no papers, no greed. Only silence, the kind that comes from understanding what's been lost. As they lowered her beside their father, Ethan whispered, "She finally found peace, not in this house, but in the hearts we opened too late." Parents spend their lives giving us everything, their youth, their time, their love. And in the end, all they ask for is a place in our hearts. Because when love leaves a home, even a mansion becomes nothing more than a silent house.